There's a lot of facets to this morning's guest, but to chronicle it simply, he's always loved sports. When it comes to news and shopping, he's on the scene. But to top it all off, he's independent. Who is he? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Conway Area Chamber of Commerce at 203 Main Street at the foot of the bridge in historic downtown Conway. We're focused on improving production and printing. And we're visiting with Steve Robertson, the president of Waccamaw Publishers. Good morning, Steve.
Well, very nice to be with you. Thank
exciting to get you in on a Wednesday morning.
Well, I appreciate the invitation.
Right here at the Conway Area Chamber of Commerce, they were kind enough to open it up a little early before things really get hopping for the day. And of course, Round the Force getting close.
Yes, it is, and we're excited. That's a big event for Conway.
Oh, yeah, tremendous event. What about this lobby? I wish viewers could see, instead of looking at the two of us, could actually look up here on the ceiling and get a feel of this place. It is a tremendous facility.
Oh, yeah. You know, I've visited a lot of cities during my travels, and I think Conway's chamber office is one of the nicest I've ever visited.
Yeah.
Yeah, really nice.
It really has to be, and what a great location here. I guess you've probably crossed over this bridge a few times.
Many times.
Yeah.
And spent a lot of time on the river, too. You know,
is that right?
The river is another great asset Conway has.
A real gem.
You know, residents here really enjoy it.
Are there a lot of places up and down the river to launch? I mean, within the city of Conway, do folks go out a lot, whether on the weekends or during the week?
I guess the most popular one would be the Conway Marina. It has a store there and docks and fuel and all the other goodies that you need when you're out on the water.
Absolutely.
Right, but there's many landings between here and Georgetown.
Larry Biddle was with us a couple of months ago, and to hear him talk about the river it's almost hypnotizing to hear him talk about the excitement of seeing that. Of course, he's a big fan of Murrells Inlet as well and loves living down on the creek for half the year. But to hear him talk about the river, it's mesmerizing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of folks really feel that way. Real quick about yourself, Steve. Are you originally from Conway? You've been here a long time, I know.
I have. I moved to Conway around 1975. Before that, I had grown up in the Air Force. I'm a military brat and traveled all over the world, including 3 years in Japan at several bases over there.
Is that right?
Right. Came back to the South Carolina area to finish high school, and shortly after that, that's where I met my wife, Cheryl, from Marion County.
Right.
And wanted to put down roots. When the Myrtle Beach Sun-News first went from a tri-weekly to a daily publication, I came over to be their first sports editor.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I worked there a couple years, and then wanted to have a little bit more stable hours, so I moved over into the news department. Eventually came over to Conway and served several years as a reporter and editor of the Field and Herald newspaper, which had been here for, I guess, maybe 100 years or so.
Is that right? In Conway?
Yeah.
Wow. And it served the whole county or principally just...
Well, at one time, I'm sure that it was the dominant newspaper in Horry County. But when Mark Garner started the Sun-News, or bought the Sun-News back in the 50s, I think, eventually that became the largest paper in the county.
Right. The Field and Herald.
The Field and Herald.
Son of a gun. I don't think I knew that. So that was from the mid-'70s to
around 1980 when I decided to branch out and start my own paper.
Yes, which of course is headlined right here. As you know, obviously this show is sponsored by the Myrtle Beach Herald, but this was an instance on Wednesday, and we hope to get you back tomorrow as well if you'd be willing to get back with us. But a day where we've got your 4 publications spread out here on the on the table here. So this publication, the Horry Independent. Yeah,
well, you're very kind to do that, and I know we have a friendly competition with the Myrtle Beach Herald and our papers. And by the way, I think the Herald just looks great, and
We've got a long way to go, Tom. Since 28 years you've been in it, we hope that when we're at 28 years old, we'll be doing half of what you all are doing over here. It's an incredible operation, and part of the thrill when we're talking about improving production and printing is to highlight your amazing new transition into this. I think I saw 30,000, was it copies an hour? Just some incredible speed there of what you all can turn out, and the ability, of course, to publish 4 weekly publications is tremendous.
Oh yeah, it was a landmark event for us because for a long time when we just had the 2 papers, the Independent and the Shopper, we actually farmed it out to other commercial printing operations.
Right.
And that was okay, but you know, you lose some control over the quality of the paper, and you're kind of at their mercy with their printing schedules.
Right.
So back around 2000, we purchased an old existing press and moved it into our building over on North Main Street, and used that old press for many years, well actually about 7 years.
Right.
And it was starting to show its age, and there were other things happening in our industry. As you know, more advertisers would like to have their ads in color rather than black and white.
Color is wonderful, yes.
Yeah, and the old press just couldn't do the job.
Right.
So about a year ago, we started looking around and comparing different vendors and manufacturers, and surprisingly, we found the press we bought in India.
Is that right, in India?
It was actually manufactured in India. We placed the order, and in September of last year, we received those units and installed them, and we've been up and printing ever since.
Wow, Steve. Well, the installation process is a significant one. I know you brought some great pictures, which we'll take a look at in a second. But that decision, of course, this is a big undertaking, both financially as well as timeline. When you actually place the order, it takes them quite a while to get the units ready to be able to ship over here. And when you speak of a group in India, I mean, they're producing for folks all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, one of the things we wanted to look at was we wanted to go with a company with a proven track record.
Right.
And this company is called Orient. And they've had over 4,000 installations since they began about 3 decades ago.
Is that right?
So they definitely know what they're doing, and they have a product that works well. And so we kind of did our due diligence and our homework and decided on that. We would love to have purchased the press from American manufacturers, but there's only a handful of them, and
is that right?
They can't compete with price. You know?
Oh yeah.
This is nearly $1 million investment.
Wow.
So we had to make our dollar stretch as far as we could.
Yes, very definitely, and that is important to think about. A weekly publication, in this instance 4 publications, 3 and now 4 publications, making that kind of a commitment. It shows the real impact, the desire you all have to want to continue to make a real impact on the area, but that it takes some real dollars to make it happen.
Oh, absolutely. But we do have high confidence that this area is going to continue to grow. True, you know, the economy's kind of in a downswing right now, but I think it's going to come back around.
It will.
And I think we're going to be strategically positioned to take advantage of that new growth. Some of the things we're looking at is maybe increasing the frequency of the independent.
Right.
Also, we started a new paper, the Carolina Forest Chronicle, which I'd like to talk about later.
Absolutely, yes.
And it's just really taken off.
Oh, yeah.
And there's you know, other opportunities available to us that this press will allow us the ability to address. Right.
Sure, sure. Well, of course, going back to the first one, the Orient Independent, what prompted you, and I think you mentioned Cheryl, you and Cheryl to step out and do your own thing?
Right. Well, as memory serves me well, and it's been about 28 years now. But,
1980, yeah.
1980. At the time, I'd always had a desire to own a newspaper and operate it the way I saw fit.
Right.
And that wasn't happening with the existing paper. It was owned by a large chain.
Oh, really? The Field and Herald was?
The Field and Herald. It was part of a group that included the Sun News and the State, and I think there was a couple of other papers, I can't remember. But I just didn't like working in that corporate environment. I preferred to have a little bit more independence in how the stories were reported and how our business was conducted. And I also am firmly convinced that a locally owned newspaper is more closely attuned to the community and can respond in a better way than a newspaper that's owned by a corporation located 2,000 miles away.
Or 3,000 miles away. That's exactly right. Yes, yes. Not to pick on our daily paper in the area owned by McClatchy, and of course I'm sure you weren't heading that way, but even in the PD area or up in southeastern North Carolina, those daily newspapers unfortunately don't have that ability, unlike the Post and Courier, which is very responsive with local owners right there in Charleston. They continue to do things very creatively because they are locally owned and operated.
Right.
Don't have to run something way up the flagpole 3,000 miles away to get a quick answer to try to do something. They can make that decision by walking down the hall just like y'all do right here. And speaking of that, Steve, y'all's offices are easy to find here in Conway?
Sure, yeah. All you have to do is come into Conway on Main Street if you're coming from the Myrtle Beach area.
Right.
And go straight through the downtown area, go about another 2 miles, and we're located near the Conway Post Office on the right-hand side of Main Street.
Very easy to find. If a viewer was interested in learning more about the publications, is there a good phone number, or even if they get lost coming in to call, or even to a website for someone to visit?
Sure. Our phone number is 248-6671.
Right.
And then we have a couple of websites, but the one I would recommend would be oriindependent.com.
Okay,
and
yes.
from there you can reach our other
There are
websites.
links to the other 3 sites from there.
Right.
That's tremendous. Well, that's a great setup. And of course, websites are such a great way to communicate with people, getting up-to-date news on there, and obviously seeing what they can't touch and hold and feel. Surely we want them to touch and hold and feel. You can get a lot more out of it like we see here on the table, but websites do provide a great connection. oriindependent.com.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
Great. You know, there's so many things to think about in that transition from one publication to a second publication, later a third, and now a fourth, and potentially fifth and sixth down the road. As you think through those steps, of course, you highlighted that it even earlier than y'all launching your own publication. What was it about? How did you become the sports editor? I'm just thinking about that there at the Sun News when it was, I guess it was a tri-weekly then.
It was, well, it had just gone daily.
Okay,
Greg.
it had just gone daily.
Just gone daily. Actually, I started in high school as a stringer.
Right.
This is in Melbourne, Florida, and I wrote accounts for the local daily newspaper there.
Right.
When I came back to South Carolina to attend college at Francis Marion, where I started, I worked with the Florence Morning News and their sports department.
Is that right? Yeah.
I always loved sports. And,
Yeah.
I didn't play them, but I like to report on them. And when the position came open in Myrtle Beach, I just kind of jumped on it. And
Yes.
came on down.
And you said you met Cheryl. Was that in Florence, or was that when you moved down here to Myrtle Beach? You said she's in Marion.
Right, right. I was in Florence, in the Marion area, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.